Grace had always believed in the traditional ideals of marriage love, loyalty, and trust. She had been with her husband, Ben, for nearly 8 years, and they had built a life together that many envied. They had a cozy home, a good circle of friends, and even a successful business that they ran as a team. However, there was always an underlying tension that Grace couldn't shake: her inability to get pregnant. For years, Grace had been trying to conceive. She and Ben had gone through all sorts of treatments: IVF, hormone injections, and countless doctor's visits. Still, nothing seemed to work. At first, Grace was determined to stay hopeful. She couldn't bear the thought of giving up on her dream of becoming a mother. But as months turned into years, the emotional toll began to weigh heavily on her. Ben, for his part, was supportive. At least that's what he had always seemed to be. He encouraged Grace when she was down, reassured her when she felt hopeless, and even suggested they take a break from trying for a while to focus on other aspects of their relationship. But there was a growing tension between them, an unspoken distance that Grace began to notice. It wasn't that Ben was cold or distant, but there were moments when his eyes seemed far away, and she began to wonder if something was changing. Then, one evening, as they sat down for dinner with Ben's father, Robert, the conversation took an unexpected turn. "Ben, have you considered other options?" Robert asked, looking at his son with concern. Grace felt a wave of unease wash over her. She had always adored Robert. He was a kind, gentle man, and she had always felt like part of the family. But tonight there was something in his tone that made her uncomfortable. Ben hesitated for a moment before responding. "We've tried everything, Dad. All the doctors say there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to have a baby. But Grace and we're running out of options." Robert took a deep breath, his gaze shifting to Grace. "You know, in some cultures, when a couple is having trouble conceiving, the husband might ask someone else to help." Grace's heart skipped a beat. She looked at Ben, unsure if she had heard him correctly. But Ben's face remained expressionless, his eyes fixed on his father. "You mean you want me to sleep with Grace?" Ben's voice was low, almost distant. Grace couldn't believe what she was hearing. She had been married to Ben for years, and although their relationship had its ups and downs, she never imagined it would come to this: her husband suggesting that his father, his own flesh and blood, sleep with her to help her conceive. Ben nodded, his face pale. "It's not that I don't want to be the father, Grace, but we've tried everything, and I just don't know what else to do. Maybe this is the only way we can make it happen." The words hit Grace like a slap in the face. Her head spun, her heart pounded in her chest. How could Ben ask something like this? Did he even understand what he was proposing? The idea of her father-in-law, a man she had always respected, being involved in such a way emotionally, it felt like an assault on everything she thought she knew about their marriage. But then, the more Grace thought about it, the more the layers of emotion began to unravel. She had always wanted a child, and here, in this surreal moment, was an opportunity. But at what cost? How could she ever look at Ben or Robert the same way again? Grace excused herself from the table, her mind racing as she walked to the bathroom. She stood in front of the mirror, gripping the sides of the sink as tears blurred her vision. She had always known there were challenges in their marriage. Ben had become increasingly distant, their intimacy less frequent. But this felt like a betrayal in the most profound way. The conversation with Ben later that evening was painful. She wanted to scream at him, demand answers, but she also felt utterly lost. How could you even think that this was an option? How could you ask your father to do something like this? Ben looked down, his voice barely a whisper. I thought it was the only way. I thought you wanted this so badly. I thought I could help you. Grace felt as if the very foundation of their marriage was crumbling beneath her. The man she loved, the man she trusted with her life, had just asked his father to sleep with her. There were no words to describe the feelings that flooded her chest: betrayal, confusion, anger, sadness, all of it tangled together. The weeks that followed were filled with silence and distance. Grace couldn't bring herself to look at Ben the same way again. How could she? The betrayal wasn't just physical, it was emotional. It was a wound that would never heal. She began questioning everything. Had Ben always been this desperate? Was he willing to sacrifice the very essence of their relationship to make her happy? The relationship between Grace and Robert, too, was forever changed. She couldn't look at him without feeling a sense of disgust. The man who had always been a father figure, someone she trusted and respected, had crossed a line that was impossible to come back from. In the end, Grace made the painful decision to leave Ben. She couldn't forgive him, nor could she ever forget what he had suggested. She knew that if she stayed, their relationship would never be the same. But the journey to find herself again was long and fraught with emotional turmoil. There were nights when she lay awake, torn between anger and sadness, trying to make sense of the years that had led her to this point. It took years for Grace to heal, to understand the deeper emotional layers of what had happened in her marriage. Therapy helped, but the scars remained. The grief of losing not only her marriage but her trust in the man she had once loved was something she would carry with her for the rest of her life. In time, Grace found a new sense of peace, but the lessons she learned were hard-earned. Trust was something that couldn't be taken for granted, and sometimes the people we love can hurt us in ways we never imagined possible. But she also learned that no matter the challenges, no one, not even the people closest to us, should ever ask us to compromise our dignity or our self-respect.